I'm ready to move on to this next. I think that was all really good. So Chris was wanted to talk a little bit about these astronauts. They were in space. They did not have any DJ
Supposed to be
controllers.
there for 7 days.
Yeah, yeah,
We're
it's
there for
really
9 months.
tough. Yep. And so they did they. So and I'm completely oblivious to this because my head's been in between two turntables for the past week. So
Is that a metaphor?
it could be.
That was a good one.
Could be.
Good
I
one.
can't. I mean, I'm
Hannah's.
just a natural born artist. What's up?
Shout out Hannah.
Shout out Hannah in New York. If you're watching this, stop giving your number out. Not calling motherfuckers.
People or texting them back when they text you.
Yeah. Shout out to. I don't know what to say. Anyway, so tell me a little bit about. So the guys are back. So
I think I know
Musk.
you're going with that fucking joke.
Yep. Elon got his shit together and pulled a spaceship out of his private garage to go and save these astronauts that couldn't get home, or the country that whatever it was, NASA, whoever the fuck was putting this shit together, didn't mess it. And so they're back. And tell us a little bit about like how Elon had to intervene, what exactly happened, and you're saying that there's a really big tie to this commercial space Act of 1998, which I have a graphic for you. So when you're ready for it, let me know.
Yeah, throw it up. So this is big. All right, so the space shuttles, right? The Challenger and Atlantis and all those four. There was four of them, right? They were the only authorized platforms in the United States for re-entry. So the only way you could get anybody back or get anything back from outer space was to use a space shuttle. And it was basically federally mandated that there was no private company, only NASA had authorization to create re-entry vehicles. There's actually an Australian company sometime before the 98 Space Act that tried to get authorization to create a vehicle, and they got denied, so they built it in Australia. That company didn't do very well, but that's not the point. So in 1998, when the Commercial Space Act, that basically allowed a private company to create a vehicle that could re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, just like the space shuttle. Now, the 2003 Challenger mishap sort of really highlighted the risk and the cost involved. And so in 2011, they scrapped the space shuttle program. So essentially, between 2011 and SpaceX, we had to use the Russian Soyuz shuttle to bring astronauts back and forth between the ISS, right? And so there literally has not been a platform in the US since 2011 to bring astronauts back. And so that's why this whole SpaceX thing is such a big deal, because the Russian Soyuz rocket went down, right? That's the problem, right? And so we couldn't get our astronauts back because Russia couldn't get them back, because we couldn't do it ourselves. And without the 1998 Space Act, SpaceX would not be where they are today to be able to actually have done this. So if that Space Act hadn't gone through, who knows? I mean, because SpaceX wouldn't have been able to be created. I mean, I'm fascinated by the kind of how the whole process goes. But yeah, so now they're back. They were there for 9 fucking months, dude. 9 months in space when you're supposed to be there for 7 days is insane. I don't even know how they did it.
Have you seen the photo, like the before and after of the one, and I know there was that guy who's now a senator, which I think is all fucking shady. So I don't know if you know this, but like there's these twins, and then they put one in space for a year and one here so they could compare, right? And the guy that went into space is now like a senator, and like all this stuff. And so like I thought that was really shady. But one of the things they what was it? His eyeballs got bigger, like all these really weird things that happen that when you're not near gravity or whatever, like which I thought was really interesting in general. So, but I am glad that these guys are back. I do think this Commercial Space Act of '98 is a really interesting thing because, I believe that there is a cyclical event that kind of happens on this planet. I don't know when the fuck it is, but it's just like you look at shit, right? Like, and so it's interesting, and I do believe that there have been human beings before the last flood 12,000 years ago or whatever. I don't believe civilization started 6,000 years ago, because it's not that cool. And so I do.
Younger Dryas.
Yeah, Younger Dryas. And so, I think it's interesting that all the guys with all the money, the private guys, not the governments, are all building rockets to get off the planet. It's like when they all build bunkers. I'm like, why are they all building rockets to get? So that's my take, is that, I do believe, like governments and elites have a lot more information. I don't think there's like some big conspiracy theory going on, but I do think that getting people off the planet safely is going to be part of what humanity needs to continue on a longer timeline. So I think this was kind of preemptive in saying, okay, we tried it. We've been to space. Remember, and I think in the 80s was the real battle for space, was the satellite battle, and like America won when we invented GPS.
69 we went to the moon, so 60s.
No, I meant like in the 80s there was all these companies shooting up communication satellites.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like all the private companies, and then cable TV. Remember that? And so like all that shit. And so I think that's where the real battle was, and that was already fought and won. And the United States won. We invented GPS. We positioned the satellites. We created it. And so hey, guess what? Now we're dominant in that respective. So I don't know what's going to happen, as far as like, getting us off the planet, but I do believe that battle, sort of that battle kind of finished. And then this Space Act was in out to let, to let capitalism, let the creative capital flow to people who are going to do things like Elon, and innovate and see who can get the best rocket and who can get us off the planet the best.
Yeah, so two things. One, after I saw this whole situation with SpaceX pretty much basically saving them after they were being stuck in space, I decided to watch Geostorm with Gerard Butler. And he took a rocket up there. It looked
Dude, it's
exciting.
a great movie. It's such
It's
a
a
good
great
I
movie.
haven't
movie.
seen it in a while, but yeah, I saw it.
But no, it makes you think, right? So, Ricardo, you bring up a valid point. So the privatization of rockets and flying to space. Elon's been talking about colonization of Mars and things of that magnitude. Do I think, these billionaires and elites are privy to some information? Yes, I do. Do I think there was a underlining reason why space exploration was privatized with SpaceX and Blue Origin and a couple of these companies? I don't think like the world's ending tomorrow. I don't think that's the case. I think because of NASA and the governmental bureaucracy, it was slowed down. So with privatization, innovation comes along with that. The brightest minds, the ability to do certain things that the government could not do. Also, the cost associated with it as well. It's has, created, advanced technology. It has created advanced exploration. They're talking about going further and further into space now with the technology, with the advancements. They've saved rockets because now they can catch them instead of basically rockets exploding, when they were coming back into the atmosphere. So this act, I think, gives it the opportunity to fly out of more like regional locations. It gives you the ability to fly out not just from Florida, Texas, but based on that map, you can go from California now. It looked like it was the Virginia or the North Carolina area. I couldn't see. So it gives you more opportunities to fly out.
That big ass naval base in Virginia. That's where it's going.
Yeah, so it gives you the opportunity in different geographical locations, like our podcast. We talk about issues geographically that relate to us. There's also another element to that too, and it's the weather events that are now occurring. Florida's hurricanes are occurring more and more. You're seeing flooding more and more. Texas and its situation, snow, California and its wildfires. Like, so it's preparing, because if something happens in one of those locations and you only have two states that are realistically only available, and one of the states something happens, now you have a multitude of areas.
Yeah, like reducing the single point of failure, like Chris usually likes
Exactly.
to bring. Yeah.
And then you also have to play into national security elements too that come into play as well. If you're flying rockets or you're doing certain things, you're shooting satellites, etc., you're not restricted to just a location. It could be a national security element as well.
Right, just like that movie Martin Lawrence did. National Security.
Which one, Bad Boys?
national security.
Oh, national security. Yeah, the security guard. Yeah,
so just
there's-
to be clear, part of the problem was all of those rockets that you talked about being shot into space, they didn't come back down. All their crap is still out there. That's like, yeah. So that's like that was like the big thing is that the only way to launch a satellite from space that didn't deposit debris all over the atmosphere was to use the shuttle. So you load it in the back of the shuttle, you launch the shuttle up, they could launch a satellite and then come back, right? All other rockets that went up did not come back.
There's so much space debris.
They're all just all the pieces are just floating around, but they launched the satellite, right? And so again, like I said, between 2011 and SpaceX, everything that went up was not allowed to come back.
Yeah.
that's crazy.
So if you look, there's like thousands of pieces.
There's
of
a there's video
a
that
lot of
shows you
money up
sort
there.
of like what to do or what you would have to go through in order to do that. I don't know how these motherfuckers don't get killed up there with this shit flying around, but I mean, anyways, I think Elon. I don't know, but I think he's been doing a really good job. I mean, obviously his rockets. I don't know if you saw the rocket, the huge
Raptor.
rocket.
Insane.
Yeah, I mean, comes back and just like
3D printed.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think
awesome.
with this problem, we have to call Gerard
So
Butler.
awesome.
I think he has
Shout
the
out Elon.
solution. I think Gerard Butler has the solution. He was a scientist and an astronaut in that movie, and I think he has all the answers.
And moving on.